What kind of engine could power a truck across the Rockies and still leak oil like a faucet? A Detroit diesel. For decades, Detroit diesel engines were the heartbeats of America's highways. They were loud, powerful, and impossible to ignore. But did their brute force come at too high a cost? Maybe. From machines that built empires to engines that broke wallets, here are 12 Detroit diesels that dominated the roads. Or should I say, nearly destroyed them. 1. Detroit Diesel Series 60. In 1987, Detroit Diesel introduced the Series 60, a revolutionary engine that forever changed the landscape of heavy-duty trucking. It was the first production diesel engine to feature fully integrated electronic controls as standard, thanks to the Detroit Diesel Electronic Control System. This innovation enabled real-time diagnostics, improved fuel efficiency, and enhanced overall performance. With horsepower ranging from 330 to 575, the Series 60 became the go-to engine for Freightliner trucks, particularly during the 1990s and early 2000s. But make no mistake, this engine had its scars. Early models had cold start issues, recurring oil leaks, and were known to eat bearings once you passed the million-mile club. And when the EGR system came into play later on, mechanics had plenty to complain about. Still, the Series 60 dominated for 2 decades straight and helped push the industry into the modern era. It was efficient, intelligent, and tough. And if it didn't leak oil, was it even a Detroit? 2. Detroit Diesel DD15. Launched as part of Detroit's next-gen engine lineup, this 14.8-liter 4-stroke diesel brought serious muscle. With up to 455 horsepower and 1,850 pound-feet of torque, it packed a serious punch. It dominated the modern Class 8 game with its tech, like the amplified common rail system and a turbo compounding system that squeezed every last drop of energy out of the fuel. And unlike its 2-stroke ancestors, the DD15 aced the emissions tests. SCR, DPF, EGR, the whole alphabet soup. But with all that fancy engineering came complexity. Repairs aren't cheap, sensors can malfunction, and if something goes wrong with your emissions equipment, you need a specialist. What seems like a minor oil seal issue could actually lead to significant pressure loss and leave you stranded. Detroit Diesel 8V92TA. If there is one engine that captures both the glory and the madness of old-school trucking, it is the 8V92TA. A turbocharged, after-cooled V8 with 92 cubic inches per cylinder and a soul forged in diesel smoke, this 2-stroke monster hit the roads in the late 70s and ruled the 80s. With output topping 475 horsepower, it ruled everything. And when it screamed at 2,100 RPM, entire parking lots turned their heads. But here is where it started to destroy more than just eardrums. The 8V92TA guzzled diesel like it was on death row. Its fuel economy was the stuff of punchlines. It leaked oil, it smoked like a tire fire. And in rare but terrifying moments, it could run away like revving uncontrollably due to oil combustion, unless you knew how to kill it fast. 4. Detroit Diesel 6716. Before trucking was a science, there was the Detroit Diesel 671. Launched in 1938, this 2-stroke inline-6 became the go-to power plant for everything from freight trucks to tanks to fishing boats. With 426 cubic inches and a simple mechanical fuel system, the 671 was durable, in fact, nearly unkillable. It could survive in sub-zero winters, jungle humidity, and battlefield conditions. Mechanics loved it. Drivers respected it. Civilians heard it 3 blocks away. But what it gave in strength, it took back in noise. The Screaming Jimmy got its nickname for a reason. This thing howled at 2,100 RPM, like it was always trying to escape its own engine bay. It leaked oil like a faucet and gulped fuel without remorse. And yet, fleets continued to buy it. 5. Detroit Diesel 16 FA92. What do you get when you give a truck a marine-grade power plant? You get the Detroit Diesel 16592, a 16-cylinder, 2-stroke, turbocharged gorilla of an engine that had no business being on a civilian highway, but somehow ended up there anyway. Each cylinder pushed 92 cubic inches, totaling a jaw-dropping 1,472 cubic inches. And when turbocharged and after-cooled, this beast could push over 1,500 horsepower. That is warship energy in a diesel truck body. But honestly, this engine destroyed more than it delivered. It drank diesel like a frat kid on spring break. It leaked oil like it was proud of it. Maintenance costs? Astronomical. Fuel efficiency? Practically fictional. 6. Detroit Diesel Series 40, aka Navistar DT 466 variant. Not every Detroit diesel had to scream, leak, or leave a trail of scorched earth behind it. Some engines played the long game, and the Series 40 was one of them. Based on the rock-solid Navistar DT 466, the Series 40 was Detroit's smart move into the mid-range diesel game. With a displacement of 7.6 to 8.7 liters in power outputs between 175 and 330 horsepower, the Series 40 got the job done. It was found in school buses, delivery trucks, and vocational rigs across the U.S., quietly stacking up miles and loyalty. But it quietly destroyed expectations. While bigger engines broke down or blew budgets, the Series 40 kept fleets running on time and under cost. It may not have screamed down the highway, but it outlived a lot of engines that did. 7. Detroit Diesel 12E 149. If the DT 466 was loud, the 12V149 was seismic. This twin-row V12 was the kind of overkill you built when you wanted to pull mountains out of your way. With a displacement of 1,788 cubic inches, this two-stroke monster pumped out up to 1,200 horsepower in its turbocharged form. It was used in massive haulers, marine vessels, and even mining rigs. Wherever raw torque mattered more than your fuel bill, the 12V149 delivered. But it destroyed everything in its path, too. Fuel economy was non-existent. Oil consumption was constant. Weight, well enough to sink a small bridge. Just firing it up felt like waking a sleeping volcano. 8. Detroit Diesel 8V71T. Take a classic 8V71, bolt on a turbo, and what do you get? The 8V71T, a diesel engine that bridged old-school toughness with a taste of modern performance. With 567 cubic inches and up to 385 horsepower, the turbocharged variant hit highways in the 70s and 80s with serious growl and low-end grunt. It dominated its era by giving owner-operators the power they craved without switching to untested tech. The turbo helped fuel economy, slightly boosted responsiveness, and gave the 8V71T enough torque to muscle through tough hills and heavy loads. But it didn't clean up the engine's worst habits. In fact, it just made them louder. The turbo's boost made blow-by and oil leaks even more frequent. Still, for many truckers, this was the sweet spot. Detroit diesel attitude, with just enough turbo swagger to make it feel new again. 9. Detroit Diesel 6V92TA. If the 80s had a diesel soundtrack, the 6V92TA was the lead vocalist. This turbocharged and after-cooled V6, with a displacement of 552 cubic inches, delivered up to 360 horsepower at 2,100 RPM and a torque of 1,000 pound-feet at 1,300 RPM. It dominated city streets and highways, mostly in transit buses and heavy-duty trucks, but it also destroyed any notions of quiet efficiency. This engine howled, smoked, leaked oil, and practically shook itself loose if you weren't paying attention. Still, its straightforward mechanical setup meant you could tear it down roadside with just a socket set and some grit. 10. Detroit Diesel 8V71N. Before turbos became the norm, the 8V71N was the backbone of heavy-duty diesel power. This naturally aspirated V8, with a displacement of 568 cubic inches, produced 318 horsepower at 2,100 RPM and 863 pound-feet of torque at 1,200 RPM. It powered a wide range of vehicles like early Class 8 trucks, buses, military vehicles, and off-road equipment in the 60s and 70s. Its rugged build and straightforward mechanics meant it could survive harsh climates and bad fuel. and still keep ticking. But the 8V71N also destroyed every hope of subtlety. It roared with the signature Detroit scream that was loud enough to rattle dashboards and announce your arrival from miles away. It was also heavy on fuel with an average of just 4 to 6 miles per gallon in real-world conditions. 11. Detroit Diesel 12 V92. When power was not optional, when it was mandatory, the operators turned to the 12 V92. This VAV-12 two-stroke beast packed 1,104 cubic inches of displacement and could deliver up to 850 horsepower and 2,300 pound-feet of torque at peak output. It dominated extreme use scenarios like massive mining haulers, military vehicles, offshore rigs, and large boats. Some even found their way into custom trucks and pulling tractors, where pure grunt mattered more than common sense. But with that dominance came destruction. The 12 V92 was known for burning through fuel, blowing thick smoke, and needing constant attention to keep it running right. If something wasn't tuned perfectly, or a small leak went unnoticed, you could end up needing a full rebuild. 12. Detroit Diesel 453. This one was a small engine with a big attitude, with 4 cylinders at 53 cubic inches each. This 212 cubic inch two-stroke inline diesel packed anywhere from 140 to 170 horsepower based on the model. It dominated lighter-duty applications like military APCs, generators, forklifts, and even small boats. Weighing around 1,100 pounds, it was praised for its power-to-weight ratio and could be dropped into tight spaces without sacrificing performance. It was also extremely modular and easy to rebuild, which is every mechanic's dream. But it still destroyed expectations with that familiar Detroit sound and trademark oil leaks. Like its bigger siblings, it screamed, smoked, and wasn't exactly fuel-friendly. And yet it is still in use today, which proves its bulletproof simplicity. Got a favorite? Or one you swore you would never drive again? Let us know down in the comments section.